Karaniwang naririnig kada bagong taon ang kasabihang New Year, New Me, partikular para sa mga creatives na sinusuring muli ang kanilang creative direction, ambition at kung paano mas mapapabuti ang kanilang karera ngayong 2026. Makakasama po natin ngayon si Amira De Vera, founder and owner ng Project 4PR, isang entertainment and sports PR management firm para sa ilang top talents ng Canada sa film, television, music at iba pa. Amira, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, Amira, ngayong simula ng 2026, maraming Filipino-Canadian talents and creatives yung parang nire-reassess yung kanilang ambition and creative direction. So, from your perspective, what's one thing that artists should leave behind in 2025 and lean more into sa 2026?
Yeah, I mean, I think now is a good time, for artists to really sit back and kind of reassess their careers and what their goals are for the future. I think yung unang-unang nakikita ko na in the past, people have kind of gone into their careers and they're so excited to be, doing what they do, but they go into it without intention. And I think intention is probably the number one thing that I would say to go into more with in 2026. Kasi pag wala kang intention, syempre, parang ang gulo ng, brand mo or the type of career that you're trying to create for yourself. So, number one, I think, is just go into it with more intention. Write down where do you see yourself in 2026 or even in 5 years from now. Kasi once you have clarity of what that looks like, syempre yung intention mo will mirror towards that goal. So, is it taking on more specific roles as an actor? Kung singer ka, anong klaseng songs ang gusto mo i-release in 2026? So, really just being intentional with your work and making sure that that matches what you're looking to do in the future. And then, I guess the other thing that I would say is, with the type of content that you're putting out there, we live in a world now where there's so much content. You open TikTok, you open Instagram, ang dami mong nakikitang different kinds of trends that are happening. And I think our first instinct as artists is maybe kopyahin yun. You want to do what other people are doing because it's trending. But I think it's leaning back into, the word that everyone talks about, which is authenticity. So I think that is very reflective of being intentional as well. Because when you're being authentic with the type of content you're putting out there, instead of constantly putting out volume rather than quality, then again, it muddles your brand. It muddles the type of, artist that you're trying to present. So I think going into it again with more intention, but also with more authenticity to who you are rather than just copying what other people are doing.
Pagdating sa expanding possibilities for Filipino-Canadian talent, what does that actually mean beyond just gaining more visibility?
Yeah, and I really love this question because I think, now we're very lucky that we live in a time that there is more visible minorities that we see on our screens, especially Filipinos, right? I think, for lack of better wording, we're kind of trending right now in the entertainment industry. You see more actors on film and TV projects, people are talking more about our food and, there's more musicians that are Filipino. I think, in terms of expansion, I think it's more than just taking on these roles because you're grateful to have these roles. I think it's going into it, knowing that I want to be in a position as a Filipino artist and creative where I'm not being stereotyped, where I'm not, where I have more position of power. And by that, I mean, it's great that you're getting a role in a Hollywood production, but if you're being, stereotyped as yung nurse or yung best friend ka lang or hindi ka bida in the production, I think you're kind of setting yourself back and you're not really expanding your world. So I think, going into it knowing that, okay, I would love to play a part in this, in this production, but I want to be going into it with more power, meaning that my role is not reduced to a stereotype, and that I have more of a say on set. We're seeing a lot more Filipino multi-hyphenates that are not just acting, but they're also producing, they're writing, they're directing. So I think that's the type of expansion that I'm hoping Filipinos will step into in 2026. Just having more say in the room and having more of a voice rather than just background noise.
Sa mga nakikita mo naman in the last couple of years, how do you think some Filipino talents have redefined what success looks like?
Yeah, and it's exciting kasi ang dami natin nakikita mga Filipino creatives, like the first person I can think about is Bretman Rock. I think he really has redefined what that creative content creator looks like, that role looks like, because he started off, as we know, doing YouTube videos with makeup tutorials, and now you can see that he's expanded by doing more bigger brand partnerships, and I think, I feel like that's kind of how they redefined what that looks like, is that they're taking on more of like an expansion role, going back to our other question. They're not just sticking to one position or one role, they're doing multi things. So, we see it with Dali De Leon. She's another great example. I feel like she, not only did she like go into this role with the intention of like, I'm going to be dominating, the Hollywood scene, but I'm going into it, with the intention that I have more of a say in this role, and I have more of an idea of like how I want this role to look like. So I think it's the idea of wearing many different hats rather than just taking on like one position where you're kind of like just saying yes and being passive. It's more, let me step into my power and let me do something about this so that I have more of a leadership position.
So what do you think should be that one guiding principle or mindset para sa Filipino-Canadian talent this year?
I think it really is stepping into your power. I think for too long, especially, sa Pilipinas, syempre iba, pero sa Hollywood or even North American TV and film and music, for too long we really have stepped behind the scenes and we've been sort of like the background and kind of like the secondary thought. I think the best thing that we can do as a collective is really step into our power and make sure that, when you are in these rooms, help to open doors for other Filipinos and, be at the forefront of making decisions, speak up for yourself, make sure that, you're not just saying yes for the sake of saying yes. Again, I think it's really about the intention of we have a say in things and we should have a say in things because we deserve to be in those rooms just as much as anybody else. So I think stepping into your power, making sure that you are one of those people that are making those bigger decisions. It can be scary because we're not used to it, but I think when we do step into that, it does get easier and it makes for a better path for not just yourself, but for all Filipinos moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Amira De Vera, founder and owner ng Project 4PR, thank you for an insightful and forward momentum thoughts and reactions for 2026.
Thank you.